In an explosive report, it's now being revealed that the United States is indeed operating a number of spy bases throughout Ukraine, despite the State Department's emphatic and repeated denials. We're going to take a look at the latest bombshell revelations and what they mean in the ongoing conflict. Also, in India, the ultra-woke Google AI Gemini is coming under fire for how the chatbot is depicting their popular Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We've got the latest. And then, tensions continue to escalate as Yemen fighters block off access to the Red Sea. We're going to see the latest and what it means for the ongoing war in the Middle East. You're not going to want to miss this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button, and let's dive right in. The New York Times just published a shocking report exposing how the CIA has indeed built upwards of 12 secret spy bases along the Russian border in Ukraine that in effect act as intelligence-gathering nerve centers for Ukraine's military response. Now, the reason why this report is such a bombshell is that it basically blows apart the central claim made repeatedly by the Biden administration that Putin's invasion of Ukraine was, quote, unjustified and unprovoked. That's been the refrain over and over again. This is literally no different from Saddam Hussein invading Kuwait. That's what we've been told. Putin engaged in a comparably unjustified and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine and therefore should be universally denounced in a manner comparable to how the world denounced Hussein back in 1991. However, according to this New York Times bombshell, the CIA began entering into a wide-ranging partnership with Ukraine not after Russian forces crossed the border. No, actually 10 years prior to that. It all goes back to that fateful event in 2014 known as the Maidan Revolution that overthrew a duly elected pro-Russian Ukrainian president, Viktor Yanukovych. We now know, thanks to a transcript published by the BBC, of a telephone conversation between then Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland and the U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine. The U.S. State Department was indeed behind that color revolution and orchestrated the installation of a pro-Western puppet government. Now, according to the New York Times, it turns out that that orchestration was, at least in part, for the purpose of establishing 12 CIA outposts to gather intel on Russia, which is exactly what Putin was accusing the U.S. and NATO of doing in the lead up to the invasion. Putin accused the U.S. and NATO of making Ukraine a default member of NATO by arming it with both weapons, by trying to take back the Donbass region, which pro-Russian separatists had secured shortly after the 2014 revolution, and by using Ukraine as an intelligence gathering center against Russia. Putin made it clear in no uncertain terms back all the way in 2007 that Russia would never allow Ukraine to join NATO. Putin made it clear that that was a provocative threat to the Russian Federation's national security, and Russia would take all necessary measures to guarantee that such an alliance would never happen. And that is exactly what Russia did 2 years ago this month. And so, as it turns out, Russian forces were not unprovoked. In fact, the CIA engaged in the very provocation that Putin warned against consistently for over a decade. As it turns out, once again, the bumbling Biden administration has been lying not just to us, but to the world. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. Gang, if you're a regular to this channel, then you know how I feel about our government and our financial system. It's no secret I'm a huge believer in diversifying your money with precious metals like gold and silver. But when it comes to buying precious metals, you need the right company in your corner. And that's why I partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, because reputation matters. Goldco is the 6-time Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, and they've helped people like you and me place over $2 billion in gold and silver. And right now, they're offering my supporters up to $10,000 in bonus silver when opening up a qualified IRA account. This is your opportunity to protect yourself from our out-of-control, corrupt government. So don't pass it up. Click on that link below and take action today. Next up, Google is in some serious international hot water. An Indian reporter recently asked the Google Gemini AI, the one that's been giving us those absurd politically correct images of historical figures. Yeah, that Google Gemini AI. Well, an Indian reporter recently asked the same AI the question, is India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi a fascist? The answer was stunning. Gemini responded that Modi, quote, has been accused of implementing policies some experts, so-called experts, it should say, but regardless, that some experts have characterized as fascists. These accusations are based on a number of factors, including the BJP's, that's Modi's political party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP's Hindu nationalist ideology, its crackdown on dissent, and its use of violence against religious minorities. Now, needless to say, the Modi government is absolutely livid over what they're calling a, quote, downright malicious response, and government ministers lashed out at Google, accusing their AI of violating India's laws on information technology, specifically that new AI systems cannot use the Indian population as guinea pigs to work out the kinks in their system. And clearly, as far as the Modi government is concerned, as far as the vast majority of the Indian population is concerned, accusing Modi of fascism is far more than just a kink. It's downright defamatory. And so now Google is finding itself in increasingly international hot water with regard to this ridiculously politically correct Gemini AI, the rollout of which has been an absolute disaster. We got another international incident that's made its way to the front pages as of late, and we need to talk about what's happening in Yemen, and specifically with a new major geopolitical player known as the Houthis. Now, if you don't know, the Houthis are a political and military organization inside Yemen that emerged in the 1990s. As Shiites, they're aligned with the Islamic Republic of Iran, and after a decades-long civil war, they now control most parts of Yemen, including the capital, Sana'a. And what they've been doing of late, as you could see from the map, is they've been blockading the Red Sea from all Israel-affiliated or Israel-destined vessels in protest to Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Now, all other vessels are allowed to pass. Chinese, Russian, Iranian, no problem. But no vessel that has anything to do with Israel. It's an effort to starve the Israeli economy. Houthis have been effectively cutting off all vessels bound for Israel from accessing the major global supply chain route of the Red Sea. And in the process, they've exposed the astonishing impotence of the Biden administration to frankly do anything about it. In fact, the Houthis, in another sign of brazen defiance of the dwindling United States-led international order, they just knocked out a series of underwater cables, causing major communication disruptions between Europe and Asia. Now, what's really happening here with the rise of the Houthis on the international stage is a dynamic that scholars call re-territorialization. And this is a process where, as liberal globalism wanes and falls apart across the world, more and more populations are reclaiming their cultural and geographic space. And they're beginning to take action to protect that space from any remaining vestiges of the radically anti-cultural dynamics of transnational globalization. It's the very same dynamic that we've been seeing of late in Africa, with all the coups that have been happening in the Sahel region. The latest, of course, being in Gabon. What all of these nations have in common, Gabon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, what they all have in common is that they were once French colonies, and now they want to expunge any and all remaining French influence, particularly its political and economic influence from within their respective borders. We're seeing the same thing in Europe, where more and more populations are reclaiming their cultural space, their land, their regions, their borders, their national security, and they are in turn increasingly demanding the expulsion of what they consider to be foreign influences that are threatening their cultural space. So this would explain the mass backlash against immigration that's happening, particularly in Europe and the United States. It's what scholars call re-territorialization. More and more populations are returning to their ancient civilizational spheres and thus reclaiming their regions and their cultural geographic space. So this is why you're seeing the rising up of the Houthi rebels in Yemen. They aren't abiding by some globalist-inspired United States-led international order that's demanding they keep the Red Sea open to globalist supply chains. No, But the Houthis, they are the guardians of the entrance to the Red Sea. And they are the ones, not the United States, not the EU, not NATO, not the UN, they are the ones who determine who goes in and out. And therefore, their interests, their concerns must be addressed by the international body. Again, it's a very fascinating development in the rise of a civilizational world that in many ways is only just beginning. Hey gang, I just wanted to give you a huge note of thanks to each and every one of you, the thousands of you that have recently clicked on the link below and joined our Insiders Club. As many of you know, we took a big hit from big tech. Our channel was completely and totally demonetized, but you, literally thousands of you, stepped in and you rescued me and this channel by bypassing big tech and joining our Insiders Club. You made it loud and clear to the Silicon Valley oligarchs that we're a movement, an army of like-minded patriots who refuse to be silenced by the international woke police. And so once again, I just want to take this moment to thank each and every one of you who have joined our Insiders Club for coming to our rescue. And for those of you who want to join in on the effort and take action, gang, just click on the link below and join our email list. That way we will never, ever, ever lose touch with each other, no matter what big tech does. So just click on that link below, join our email list, and become a part of an army of literally hundreds of thousands of patriots dedicated to taking our nation back, most importantly, together.